Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1174B, and today's date is January 10th, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Elite's Next Phase is Coming in a Few Days to Stop the Inauguration. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, this morning, there was a report out there saying that Trump is going to wait to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which is Obamacare, until a replacement is in hand. And this might take many years to do so. And I guess he had this phone call with Rand Paul, and they discussed it, and they said that, yes, this would be the strategy. And what we've seen since then is that Trump, he appears to have backtracked on his position where he said we were going to wait. He's saying, no, we need to repeal it now. Doesn't matter if there's a replacement or not. We have to get to business. Obamacare has been a catastrophic event, he says. So Trump's position undercuts Republicans who want a quick vote to repeal President Obama's signature domestic achievement, but who also want to wait as long as 2 to 3 years to come up with an alternative. And we see that Trump is saying, no, we need to get rid of it now, and that's that. So it looks like there's a little problem in the Republican Party dealing with Trump. Trump has made a promise that he was going to repeal Obamacare. He started the process. He started to create executive orders. The vote was going to the Senate. And it looks like that they're moving forward with this now. We'll have to wait to see what happens. But we can see that things are moving back and forth, and everything is between Trump and the Republicans. They're not jiving just yet. Obama, well, he has opted to keep his presidential records under wraps for 12 years after he leaves office on January 20th. It's very transparent of him. Yes, many presidents do this. Obama sent a letter to the National Archives in July authorizing close aide Anita Breckenridge to act as his representative in the release of his White House records in future decades. So if Obama should die or become incapacitated before 2029, Breckenridge would retain discretion over which advice and appointment-related records should be made public. And we see right now, and this is of course according to the Freedom of Information Act, but right now everything is kept under wraps until 2029. Now today there was confirmation hearings with Jeff Sessions. He is appointed Attorney General by Trump. That's his nominee. And they were asking him questions about Hillary Clinton and her email scandal. And they asked him, what will you do if you become Attorney General? Will you pursue an investigation against Hillary Clinton? Because during the elections, you talked about Hillary Clinton, her email, her foundation, and it seems like you're kind of biased. And Jeff Sessions says he would recuse himself from any potential future investigations or probes involving Hillary Clinton. Now, this doesn't mean that a deputy attorney general can pursue the case. It means that he will be off the case and someone else will be handling it. And we'll have to see how this all plays out. Because, again, Trump did make a promise that he'd be going after Hillary Clinton. Is he going to keep this promise? Or at least probe into, was she doing something illegally? And for all of us that's been looking into this, we can see that there are signs that someone was doing something illegal. The foundation was doing something illegal. And again, we can see that this needs to be investigated to see if there is a problem here. But again, the FBI didn't do any type of investigation. The Department of Justice really didn't do anything. Everyone was very hands-off, didn't want to touch it. So we'll have to see if things do change here. Now, We see the CIA director confirmation. That was delayed a day. And every time I hear something where there's a delay or they're putting something off, it raises red flags. Now, the Senate Intelligence Committee, they have delayed by one day the confirmation hearing for Donald Trump's CIA director nominee, Kansas Rep. Mike Pompeo's hearing. It was initially scheduled for Wednesday, and now it's taking place on Thursday. Why is this happening? Is something going to happen on Thursday? We don't know, but this is something that we must look at. Now, the 25-page report was released by the CIA, the NSA, and the FBI. And looking through this 25-page report, and I know they released that 13-page report, but this is the more in-depth one. Well, it really shows absolutely nothing. There's nothing in there that is factual. I mean, there's a lot of judgments, but in fact, in Annex B, at the very end of the 25-page report released jointly by the CIA, NSA, and FBI, it makes it clear that it should not be assumed that there is any evidence to prove that any judgments or assessments made in the report are actually factual. They use estimative language, consists of two elements: judgments about the likelihood of developments or events occurring and levels of confidence in the sources and analytic reasons supporting the judgments. Judgments are not intended to imply that we have proof that shows something to be a fact. Assessments are based on collective information, which is often incomplete or fragmentary. And we see right now, instead of providing proof, the report relies heavily on innuendo and spends numerous pages focusing on the content of Russia Today reporting and the news outlet's staff. In some cases, going back several years before the election, to make high-confidence assessments and high-confidence judgments, which really means nothing. Because high confidence does not mean the report's assessment is a fact or a certainty. And what we're looking at right now is this gigantic report which tells us absolutely nothing. And of course, the U.S. government is out there, the State Department is saying that, well, it wouldn't be right for the agencies to reveal the real evidence of what happened because that would be irresponsible. Well, shouldn't the American people have all the facts before we go to a war or cyber attack a country? I mean, look what happened with Iraq with weapons of mass destruction. They wanted us to believe them. They made their case. They showed us this little powder. They kept on saying that they have it, and it turned out to be a complete lie. So excuse me if we want proof. And guess what? When we call them out on it, they cannot show it. The people of the country have every right to see the actual proof of how they determined that Russia actually hacked. And they can't do it. And everything that we've looked at, all the IP addresses, the 13-page report, the 25-page report, nothing in there shows us that they actually did this. Again, it's propaganda, and they're using it on the people. Now, a couple reports ago, we talked about how the U.S. is sending a huge number of troops, assets, over to Europe. And this is Operation Atlantic Resolve. And we see right now this is really to provoke Russia. And we see right now that the American soldiers, well, they landed in Poland. The troops will be followed by roughly 2,800 tanks and other pieces of military equipment which are currently en route from Germany. There was a delivery of U.S. Abrams tanks, Paladin artillery, Bradley fighting vehicles, as well as many other troops. And we see right now that NATO Major General Timothy McGuire, he said that last week when asked if large deployment was meant to send a message to Russia, he said the best way to maintain the peace is through preparation. One of the largest movements of U.S. troops to Europe since the Cold War, and we are ready to go up against Russia. Now, among the deployments to Romania and Bulgaria will be the 1st Battalion, 8th Infantry Regiment, dubbed the Iron Knights. This is the oldest armored unit in the U.S. Army. The U.S. has also increased its presence in the Black Sea and in Western Europe at bases in the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. And when we look at all this, this is all happening while Donald Trump is being inaugurated. Think about what's happening right now and what the elite are doing. Now, YouGov, they did a poll. They surveyed about 8 countries, and they asked people, do you think World War III is going to break out? They polled around 9,000 people, and this is the answer from the poll. According to the results, the U.S. said yes, 64% believe we're heading towards a war. France, 64% said yes, we are heading towards a war. Germany, 63%. Britain, 61%. Finland, 52%. And it goes into Sweden, 48%, Norway, 46%, Denmark, 45%. So the poll found that the governments around the world are convincing us that we are heading towards this war. The poll also found Russia is considered to be a major or significant military threat to the rest of Europe. So the propaganda coming out of the corporate media, coming out of these governments, it is working on the people. They do believe that Russia is a threat, and they do believe that we're heading towards war. And from all these movements of assets and troops provoking Russia, recalling all the aircraft carriers back home here to the United States, maybe to have them as sitting ducks, or maybe to rearm them and send them out again. We don't know. But it's very peculiar to do so as Obama is leaving office. So all that we're seeing right now is all happening in the last couple of weeks of Obama sitting in office. And to me and to many other people, it looks like it's a complete setup, that they're really going to try to push war. Now, out in Libya, the General Electricity Company of Libya has warned of a possible total blackout in Libya's electricity network if today's blockade of the main fuel pipeline by fuel smugglers continues, saying that everything in the country will be completely blacked out. There'll be no power whatsoever. And we see right now that the people of Libya are selling the oil. They're calling them smugglers. And we have the central bank and the controlled area where they're trying to maintain control of the sale of oil. Now, anyone that tries to sell the oil, not going through the central bank, not using the petrodollar, they are considered smugglers. That you're not going through the proper system. Well, every country has the right to sell the oil the way they want. And we know that Libya, they wanted to sell it not using the dollar. That's why the United States invaded Libya. Iraq wanted to sell the oil not using the dollar. That's why Iraq was invaded. And we see right now the people in these countries, once they assume power, they are going to sell the oil not using the dollar. Which means countries don't need the dollar. Which means those dollars float back to the United States. Which means the United States government, the elite, the shadow government, they lose the control over the rest of the world. Now, yesterday we talked about how North Korea is testing their intercontinental ballistic missiles, and the U.S. says they have every right to shoot it down if the United States feels that this is a threat. Well, there's one problem. The U.S. might not be able to intercept a North Korean intercontinental ballistic missile. And this is coming from Pentagon's weapons testing office. They're saying that the United States right now doesn't have the capability of shooting down one of their missiles. The U.S. has limited capability to defend the U.S. homeland from small numbers of simple North Korean nuclear-tipped ICBMs, which is very interesting, because think about this for a second. If they could create a situation where they make us believe that North Korea actually shot a missile into the United States and could not be blocked, war would be started. If North Korea shoots off a missile and the U.S. does shoot one down, well, North Korea would say this is an act of war. So they're covering all bases right now. And people say, well, no, this would never happen. They would never shoot a missile into the United States. Remember, they brought down the World Trade Center. And everyone thinks of a false flag as fake, where people don't die. No, a false flag is to get the people to do something that they normally wouldn't do. So it's a complete setup where they actually do something where they blame it on a country or a group, and that country or group never really did it. It doesn't mean it's fake. It means that it's false. It really didn't happen the way they're saying it happened. So if there's a missile that is shot over from North Korea, maybe it was shot over from South Korea, but they'll report that it came from North Korea, it will hit somewhere here in the United States. Maybe it won't hit a major city, but it will hit maybe a town or another area where they can say, oh my God, look what just happened. We didn't have the capability of shooting it down. North Korea just fired their missile and they were successful. That would be a false flag, where they made it look like North Korea actually did this, but it was fired from South Korea. It had the North Korean markings on it. They tracked it. The corporate media put out the fake news that North Korea just fired a missile at us. It hit. People died. Time to go to war. Now, am I saying this is going to happen? No. But from the indicators and what they're trying to do, we can see this could happen. Any scenario could happen. Look back through history on what they've done to get us into war. They've created many false flags in the past where people have died, ships have gone down, and they brought us into war. They are desperate right now. Their backs are against the wall. We can't put anything past them. We see Turkey is out there saying that they might shut down the Incirlik Air Base to the U.S. right now. They're saying that the U.S. is not fighting the Islamic State. They're not really bombing the Islamic State, which we all knew going back many, many reports. And we see that Turkey is getting closer and closer to Russia, and right now they're moving further and further away from the United States. We see ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the moderate rebels still in Syria. They have a campaign underway to destroy Syria's public utilities. And we see right now the U.S. Air Force is involved in this, and they are coordinated actions to try to hit as many parts of the infrastructure as possible right now. Will it work? Most likely not. Because we can see that Russia, Syria, they've been pushing the Islamic State back. It looks like the U.S. is also doing a mop-up mission right now, getting rid of evidence. This is a last-ditch effort right now to try to take control of the situation, but it doesn't seem like it's working. Now, we know on January 20th, Inauguration Day is going to happen. Trump is going to be sworn in. And we see right now the establishment, the elite, their stated goal is to disrupt the inauguration festivities as much as possible. And they are planning a wide range of actions to achieve the stated goal. And there are a lot of groups out there, and they're calling for civil resistance, civil disobedience. But others are openly talking about blockades, jumping barricades, throwing projectiles, shutting down the city. In fact, one activist group took out a full-page ad in the New York Times saying no to fascism, which is really ridiculous because under Obama and all the other leaders, we were a fascist country where corporations and government meld. So when you see these type of things, these individuals are really talking about themselves and trying to project it on someone else. It's amazing. And what we're seeing right now is they're going to try to disrupt everything that's going on. Now, is this going to work? No, but I think their plan is to get riots started, kick them off in D.C., and try to have them spread across the country. They've tried this many, many times before. It just doesn't work. And I don't think it's going to work this time. But again, they're not going to give up. They're going to keep pushing until they get their way. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.